empathy, real empathy. For the beneficiary, the person or company who actually has the problem, and for the domain specialists, the experts. Truly understanding their implicit expectations, their expertise, how they see the world.
That's interesting. Empathy as a starting point for analysis.
It's fundamental here because, again, the book hints us with that statistic, 90% of projects fail due to poor requirements elicitation, often because the analysts just couldn't get that deep, often tacit knowledge out into the open. They couldn't make it explicit.
That 90% figure is, wow. It suggests a massive blind spot in how we usually approach these things. What's a common, maybe deeply ingrained misconception about requirements that CG analysts directly challenges?
That's a great question. I think it's the misconception that all the relevant knowledge is already explicit somewhere,
Yeah.
or that it can be easily formalized if you just ask the right question.
Like it's just waiting to be written down.
Exactly. CG Analysts forces us to accept that requirements, especially knowledge requirements, are often hidden, unspoken, maybe not even fully recognized by the experts themselves. It's about bridging that gap between knowing and articulating, between intuition and structure.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the book describes CG analyses not as a straight line, but as a four-stage spiral process. Sounds iterative, like you circle back.
Precisely. It's iterative, like a spiral staircase. You can circle back and revisit earlier stages to deepen your understanding as you learn more. It's not strictly linear.
Can you walk us through those four stages? How does this spiral help us uncover and structure knowledge of these messy situations?
Absolutely. So the first stage is the collect data stage. Pretty straightforward, right? This initial phase is about gathering all the relevant data you can find from all sorts of sources, identifying the key actors, the entities involved, describing the problem domain thoroughly.
Getting the lay of the land.
Exactly. But what's really interesting here, the book adds another dimension, considering the aesthetics alongside the functionality.
Aesthetics, like how it looks?
How it looks, how it feels to use. The solution needs to be functional, obviously, but also pleasing to the beneficiary. If it doesn't feel right, if it's clunky or unintuitive, adoption is going to be a real struggle, no matter how technically correct it is.
That's a really practical point. Okay, so after collecting data, what's stage two?
Stage 2 is obtain information. This goes beyond just having the raw data. It involves exploring that data, really digging in, identifying recurring patterns, characterizing the relationships between the different actors and entities.
So turning data into something more meaningful.
Yes. And this stage directly tackles what the book calls the counting-doing problem.
The counting-doing problem.
Yeah, it's that situation we talked about where people know how to do things, often very expertly, but they struggle to describe the steps or the rules they're following.
Right, the master baker example. They know the dough is right by feel, but can't easily write down the exact moisture percentage or kneading time.
Perfect example. Or trying to get the precise rules a bank actually uses for loan approvals might reveal contradictions because the real expertise isn't perfectly documented. So techniques like using scenarios, targeted exercises, they become key here to try and tease out that hidden information.
Okay, so collect data, then obtain information by finding patterns and tackling that knowing versus describing gap. What's next? Sounds like it gets more intense.
It does. Next is the acquire knowledge stage. The book describes this as the heart of cognitive analysis and often the most complex, most strenuous part.
The core of it.
Definitely. It's really about pursuing knowledge wherever it lives within that ISD, understanding the cause and effect of actions, figuring out the why behind the what, and then structuring that knowledge so it can be used in the eventual cognitive solution, CGS.
How do you even do that with tacit knowledge?
It requires intense cognitive dialogue with the domain specialists. The goal is to transform as much of that tacit knowledge CK into explicit knowledge EK as possible. It's almost like being a detective or maybe an anthropologist of expertise.
An anthropologist of expertise, I like that.
Yeah. The book suggests using a psychosocial perspective. Basically, trying to get into the heads of these experts, understanding how they think, their mental models, not just what they know.
What techniques?
Things like structured interviews, but maybe using approaches like 20 questions to probe assumptions or solution ranking to understand priorities. The aim is to uncover hidden rules or heuristics the expert might not even realize they use. The book gives this great example of using this process to build software for assessing cognitive impairment.
Wow.
Where they had to codify incredibly complex neurological knowledge and intuition from specialist doctors, making their tacit understanding explicit enough for a machine.
That sounds incredibly deep, like diving into human cognition itself. Okay, so after all that intense knowledge acquisition, what's the final stage?
The final stage in the spiral is the innovation stage. This is where all that acquired learning, all that structured knowledge leads to tangible change.
Putting it all into action.
Exactly. It's about introducing new methods, new ideas, new technologies. Could be small incremental improvements, could be genuinely disruptive shifts. But the goal is to add real value to a product, a process, a service.
And this is what the book calls cognitive innovation.
Right, because it often aims to transform the organization's dynamics, how it operates, how it responds to those constantly changing client desires and market conditions we mentioned earlier. It's the culmination, turning the analysis into a real-world valuable outcome.
Okay, this four-stage spiral: collect data, obtain information, acquire knowledge, innovate makes sense as a way to tackle that fuzzy ISD. So where does the conceptual model for cognitive innovation, CMCGI, fit in? Is that the overall guide for this?
Precisely. The CMCGI model is presented as the master blueprint, the overarching framework for all of this.
The blueprint.
Yeah. It helps formalize the cognitive architecture, how all the pieces fit together. It structures the reasoning process, helps integrate all that elicited knowledge, and guides that cyclical spiral approach. From conceptualizing the problem in the ISD to proposing solutions to validating them.
So it's the map for navigating from the methy, informal problems full of tacit knowledge
to creating those concrete, valuable, tailor-made outcomes that actually meet the beneficiary's real needs.
This iterative process, guided by the CMCG.I, it feels like a really powerful toolkit for you, the listener. A way to navigate the ambiguities of modern problem-solving, to be strategic about understanding these complex cognitive-era challenges.
And turning that hidden expertise, that unstructured information, into real, impactful results.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you? For your work, your problem-solving approach? We've journeyed through this dynamic landscape of the cognitive era.
Explored those tricky, informally structured domains where knowledge is often hidden, tacit, elusive.
And we've discovered the power of cognitive analysis and the CMCG. I model as tools to unlock that hidden expertise and craft truly tailor-made solutions.
Success in this era, it really seems to mean embracing a systematic and, importantly, an empathetic approach to knowledge management, moving beyond just surface-level understanding.
It's about diligently building a framework, like the CMCGI suggests, that can transform even the messiest, most unstructured information into clear, actionable knowledge.
Ensuring that the solutions you develop truly address the core problem, not just the symptoms.
And the book leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. It reminds us that while all this cognitive technology offers immense benefits, there's potentially a dark light of AI, as it puts it, a need to be wary of the powers that be.
Yeah, that's a sobering note.
It really prompts us all to consider, as we get better at harnessing this incredible knowledge, as we develop these powerful technologies, how do we ensure they truly serve humanity's best interests?
How do we safeguard freedom, privacy, well-being, make sure these tools don't just become instruments for control or unchecked power?
It's definitely a call for deeper engagement, for ongoing ethical consideration as we continue this really fascinating adventure into the cognitive era. Lots to think about.